I had never done tech, but I've always been a very driven business person. So I'm like, let me in.
Yeah.
Let me in, coach.
Hey, everybody in the Owwll community. We are here in 2024 for the start of a new season here on the Owwll podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Danielle Santilli, who now is...
I'm Ellie Sancher now, guys. So if you went on Owwll and you're like, what happened? Where did Danielle go? I am rebranding this year. I just released my album of meditation music. We were just talking about calming voices and meditation. So I'm going to be still doing the pop music, but diving more into the wellness world, giving a lot of tips on wellness, singing, all the things. So you can.
Hey, most importantly, you are now a podcaster. You just completed,
almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
In about 3 months from now, I think it's a full year of podcasting. How does that feel?
Pretty good. I never thought that would be in my title, but I love it.
Can we share, before we get into our guest today, because so often people get into podcasting and it's for the wrong reasons, for making money through ads, it's making money through X or Y or Z, but it's not for the relationships. And it's the same thing when it relates to Owwll and business, which we're going to get into today's guest all about, is these relationships, how key they are to be successful. And podcasting has built you a lot of relationships.
Not only, I know, I actually had someone call me earlier today, speaking on all this, asking me for podcasting advice. And I was like, wait, I actually know a lot about this. I've been doing this for a year. And I told him specifically that, because he was like, well, how do you make your episodes interesting? And I was like, I don't really know how interesting they are, but the best part, the reason we do it is so that we can actually just build relationships with people. Like you say, rather than going to coffee and setting up a date there, like I meet someone cool and I want to get to know them. And I'm like, hey, want to come on the podcast? Like you, like how I literally met her at a club basically because she was DJing and I just thought she was good and interesting. And I didn't even know all the other entrepreneurial things that she did. But yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Sure is. So why don't you introduce our guest today?
Yes. So this is Marie Cozamanis. I think I said that right. She is an entrepreneur. Yes, I met her as a DJ. She goes by Tumbles as her DJ name, but she's also in the healthcare space. She also was a relationship coach and is a published author. So yeah, why don't you tell us? I mean, that's my intro, but tell us a little bit about
Well, as soon as you actually raised Decoding the Penis book, right away, like cues are peaked. So I am a published author. I have the book that I published in 2014. I was a relationship coach. Before that, I am in the tech space. My husband and I do have a company that we own, which is a healthcare software that we offer to medical chiropractic offices. And basically it's practice management. So we've had that company for about 15 years and we both run it together. That is our main bread and butter. And then during COVID, I decided that I wanted to rebrand myself because I do that every few years.
Hey, I just did it. Right? Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I want to DJ.
Yeah.
So my husband used to DJ for 25 years when he was putting himself through school. So he had DJed all along Atlantic City, Philadelphia radio, Atlanta. And
I just found out you're like you lived in Philly.
Yeah. So we were like, COVID and trying to stay sane. And I was like, teach me how to DJ. And it just kind of like grew legs and it went from there. And, now in the past few years, I pretty much started DJing all across South Florida. And here we are. Tumbles was born.
Did you DJ in Atlantic City?
He used to DJ in Atlantic City, yeah.
Good old Murmur Mondays back in my day. I used to spend all my birthdays down there. I lived in New York City.
Oh, really?
I was at like 10, 15 guys heading to Atlantic City for a night or two.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, that used to be huge. And if you were from anywhere like in that tri-state area, like whether Philly, everybody would kind of like head out there for the weekend. And it'd
Jersey
be like
Shore, baby.
Yeah.
I'm curious, obviously like the DJ, I guess it's been 4 years now since 2020, which is wild. But how did you like start booking gigs and put your name out there? Was it through your husband who had previous connections or how did that?
Not at all. So I actually started during COVID, like we were all kind of sequestered into our homes. So I actually started with streaming and, it was kind of like just streaming. We were having fun with it. We really didn't have any huge expectations. But then as the world started to open back up and I started to go out with friends, I happened to be out one night, and this was out in Delray, and somebody mentioned, "Oh, did you hear so and so a lounge in on the avenue? They need a DJ for this weekend." So my girlfriend said, "Oh, well, she can DJ." And at this point, I hadn't started doing any live gigs. I literally was like green. I was
Yeah.
DJing maybe for a couple months. And we literally went over there, and I'm like, yeah, I could do this. And I got there the following Saturday, and I just totally like blew the doors off the place. Like, I
Woo!
tooting my own horn, toot toot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just, after that, I just started booking gigs. Like, I remember at the end of that night, he actually looked at me and he said to me, "God damn it." He goes, "Man, you just gave me a dilemma." He goes, "I just hired a new DJ, and you are so epic." He's like, "I have no clue what I'm going to do." I'm like, "Oh, you're going to bring me back every weekend."
I know. I've been there a bunch of times. So we're
Right.
talking about the Avalon in Delray. If you guys don't know,
Yeah.
I feel like it's
Great
kind of
spot.
a secret spot, but like not at the same time.
It started out as a secret spot,
Yeah.
but then like now it's no longer a secret.
Right.
It
But
still has really cool vibes.
yeah, it's like their speakeasy in the back. And I just was like, who is this girl? Like, I loved her music. I loved her energy. So yeah, there is something about you. Like you just had that
Yeah.
energy. You bring the energy. You
Yeah.
bring the party.
And then it's just
Yeah.
weird because I guess word started to spread. There's not a lot of female DJs
No,
in
no.
that space to begin with. So, especially like in Delray specifically. So
Yeah.
I just started getting people hitting me up through Instagram and like
Mhm.
other places, whether it was like at the Ray Hotel and then Tin Roof and then Honey. And it just started to grow, and I was getting hit up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like running out of like spots on my
Yeah.
calendar. I'm like, this is a good problem to have.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's been really good. I've been really fortunate.
Yeah, that's
I'm loving it.
amazing.
Yeah. And the biggest part of it is just recently, I was asked, which is like the highlight of my career. I was asked to open for Paul Oakenfold, which, if you're not in the house music scene or, the dance scene, he's actually been around for over 20, 25 years.
Wow.
He is one of the forefather DJs. And if you actually look up top DJs in the world, he still makes the top list.
Wow.
And he scored movies like The Matrix. He's huge.
Wow.
So he came to Delray Beach, and they were like, "Do you want to open for him?" I'm like, hello.
Cool.
I'm like, "Yeah, I want to open for him." So that was pretty epic. That was like the biggest
And you
thing
get
that
paid
I've
at the same time, which is amazing.
Hey, listen, you
right?
get
It's like
paid
you get to
to
have
do.
fun, enjoy what you're doing and get paid and be around these big DJs. which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Like sometimes my husband yells at me because he's like, literally, I'm like, "No, like you don't understand. I want this. Like, I'll do this for free." He's like, "No." He's like, "You're
Yeah.
losing sight of the job." He's like,
Yeah.
"It's a job."
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm loving it.
I'm curious, like, how do you balance all of that between the healthcare technology job and the DJ
So,
stuff?
yeah. So right now, what happens is, so we, like our actual software company, we were a self startup.
Mhm.
And we were bootstrapped, which meant that we were our own funding.
Yeah.
It started out just the two of us. And originally, my husband had started out with like a smaller version of what we had. It was like a small handheld app, but he had bigger dreams. So when we got together and we got married, and I moved to the US because I'm originally from Toronto,
Mhm.
I had to start reestablishing myself. So instead of going out to find a job, I had never done tech, but I've always been a very driven business person. So I'm like, let me in.
Yeah.
Let me in, coach. So he and I started building the app, and he started doing one end of it. So he did all the sales, marketing, and he runs the actual office front end part of the application. And then I took over the customer service, implementation,
Mhm.
support, training, help desk, and I took over the billing aspect.
Mm.
So it's basically like medical billing, like
Mhm.
when doctors' offices see patients and then they shoot out the billing.
Mhm.
Everything's electronic.
Mhm.
So we built that from the ground up. And I remember our first year, as soon as we launched, he says to me, "If we can get 100 doctors in our first year," he's like, "we're going to be so golden. We're going to be off to a great start." So we launch. And literally 10 days later, he comes home and he's like, "Dude, we've got 100 doctors
Oh
that
my
signed up this
God.
week." I'm like, "Shut the front door." And then the following week, it was another 100. And then the following week, and we were like, oh my, we were delirious. We
Yeah.
were like, you know that movie where the guy picks up his shoe and he's like, hello? He's like,
Yeah.
so
So this
delirious.
doesn't happen. So time
No.
most of the time, people build apps, and 99% of them fail because they can't get a single person to get into the app store to download it and then
Right.
create a profile. So, what was it that you guys were solving? Right there, obviously,
I
everyone
mean,
knows.
I
go after
know
doctors,
if it was electronic,
doctors with billing. Everyone knows.
yeah, it's a
you
good
know,
industry.
Like
Yeah.
they are a mess, and everyone goes after them. But the HIPAA rules, the compliance, the
Right.
regulations, So what was it? What were you solving for them?
I think what happened for us, like a lot of times, somebody will see that and be like, "Oh my God, you guys got so lucky." And, a lot of times it's not luck. It's actually like opportunity meets, like it's preparation meets opportunity.
Mm.
And we happened to launch at a time when the healthcare industry was converting to a new way of billing.
Yeah, I know my dad's a doctor, so like
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about because I used to
Yes.
work in his office and it was all
Yes.
paper, like
Yeah.
and filing and
Yeah.
everything. And then like they like at the same time he ended up like giving up his practice as the whole industry was shifting and
Shifting.
billing and even like the insurance companies were
Right.
shifting. And so
Right.
like I know exactly like what you're talking
Yeah.
about. It was probably like 10 years ago. I don't
It
know.
was just over 14 years ago.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was when the new medical billing codes came out. And a lot
Yes.
of the other, so we actually weren't specifically an app. We were 100% cloud based. So it's
Mhm.
almost picture like what Facebook operates
Mhm.
as for patient records. But we came out right when that happened. And a lot of the other softwares that had already been in existence for many years were so antiquated in their technology that they weren't prepared for the shift.
Mhm.
So a lot of them actually either got bought out by actual financial companies to try to rebrand, but a lot of them folded.
Mhm.
So these doctors were coming like in mass loads and they were like, I need software right away. My
Yeah.
company just sent me a message and they're closing down next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So we started stockpiling. We literally were hiring people. So we started getting remote employees across the whole country. And that's
Yeah.
how we really operate. So we had a remote based model before COVID even happened.
Mm.
And I was running like the company that way.
And what were you charging these doctors to get onto the platform?
So that was the other thing too. That's how we were successful, is that we came in, we didn't want to make a lot of money from like a little amount of people. We actually wanted to just be, make a little bit from like a lot of people.
Mhm.
So we offered $99 all inclusive, run your entire
Oh, wow.
practice.
Yeah.
Cloud based. You can access it from anywhere.
Yeah.
So it was a no-brainer. And this is something that a lot of our competitors weren't doing.
I'm assuming your competitors were like $20,000, $30,000.
They were, and they were server based. So
Yeah,
people had to
wow.
maintain servers in their
That's
offices.
smart.
So our first year, we ended up breaking, how Inc. Magazine does Inc. 500 every year for America's fastest growing companies.
Sure.
We made the Inc. 500 our very first year.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we made it again the second year. Like it
Wow.
was just bananas. We went to the newsstand and we had all these magazines and the lady's like, you must really like this magazine. We're like, no, we're in it.
Yeah, that's
So it was
some of
pretty
the
crazy.
growth issues, though. So sometimes people see the opposite. They're so excited to get those 100
Right.
doctors to sign up. They're like, oh my God, but now there's infrastructure problems.
Yes.
Well, you build it on paper. I know that happened to us with Owwll.
Right.
Our first year launching Owwll, I was like, it's amazing. We were getting pats on the back, but I'm like, we got a problem. When a
Yeah.
call drops,
Yeah.
how do we get a refund to the person who had that call drop? They want their money back.
Right.
Right. We can't just tell developers, hey, can you refund this person, that person? Then I realized we were not ready, so we didn't launch in the App Store. So there was always situations where we kept going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole as we got more people, and the more people create more problems with apps specifically.
Right.
So kind of what were some of the infrastructure scenarios that you kind of saw early on and then immediately fix? But it takes time to fix.
It does. It does. I think what happened was because we were so passionate, we knew that this was going to be like our life project. It was our baby. So we were immediately able to identify needs and issues. And it wasn't easy, honestly, in the beginning. Like, when they say like success, you have to have it in your blood in order.
Yeah.
We were grinding like while our friends were all going out on the weekends and they're like, we haven't seen you guys. And while they were like partying and while they were sleeping, we were working and we were grinding. There was like one point in our marriage, honestly, like we were so delirious and sleep deprived. We'd be like, don't talk to me like that. No, you don't talk to me like that. No, and we were like literally at each other's throats. And I was like, okay, just take a break. Let's take a break. We were sleeping maybe 4 hours a day and working 20 hours a day. But we started relying on other apps. So I started using things like I found Slack. And we started using Slack for communication because we had remote employees. Everything was virtual. We'd have meetings. I would do follow-ups. I myself was training doctors. I would connect with them remotely.
Yeah.
Like there was no question that was, not important enough. We set up the help desk. Everything was tracked. I literally set up a support model where we tracked everything to the very end. And we made sure that customer service was going to be like 110%. Like we wanted these doctors' offices to feel like we were literally, even though we're not in your office, we're there.
Was this your first tech brand that was launched?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just had to roll with it. Whatever got thrown your way, I love it.
So my background was in insurance. I'd never done tech before. but I literally educated myself on every aspect. Like I was in charge of the billing. I would call the clearinghouse and I'd be like, do you have a couple minutes? I have a couple questions. 3.5 hours later, I'd be like, okay, thank you. I think I've got everything I need.
But I want to stop right here because that's the whole power of Owwll, right? It's all about just calling someone to gain knowledge. And
Right.
you didn't have all the knowledge of running this business,
Right.
right? Your first tech platform, then this explosion of users. Then you got to figure out hiring. Then you got to figure out HR. Then you got to figure
Right.
out so many things operating a business that just get thrown on you, and you got to make decisions quick.
Yeah.
The reason why most businesses fail, it's not because they're not smart enough. It's just they don't execute.
No.
Right. And you got to execute like on your feet. You're like, I don't know if the decision's right or wrong, but I'm going with it. This is my intuition.
Right.
So speak to that side, just getting knowledge from experts and how powerful that really
I
is.
truly believe that. That is like the number one thing that I say all the time when people ask, how did you guys do it?
Yeah.
And I always say, and it lends itself to just normal life where surround yourself with the right kind of people, put yourself in a setting with the people that you actually want to be like. And there's like this, it's almost like a secret society. There's this thing about people that come from a certain culture or mindset, like successful people. They truly like to help other successful people succeed. And listen, I wish something like Owwll was around back then, because when we were actually looking to put the software together and we wanted to add a whole billing module, we found a guy we found him through LinkedIn back then.
Yeah.
And you can't even it was like, how do I message this guy? I was like, I can't even get to him. And he was just like, yeah, I've been doing this software stuff for years. I have this billing, software. He goes, I'll give you the coding to it. He goes, it's really antiquated, but he's like, if you can do something with it, here you go. And he gave it to us.
Wow.
So that basically propelled us 5 years in development, and we started working off of that. And there's somebody that I actually met through that type of networking that I otherwise wouldn't have met. So
let's talk about this for a second, because we just launched something in the Owwll app, which is based on what you're saying. It's a chat forum. We call it the Owwll Community Connection Hub, where you just post and ask, just like a Facebook group, right?
Mhm.
You've been in a Facebook group that's niche to a specific topic. Someone posts, and it could be a podcast where we want a camera, right? And we're like, can someone help me? I'm trying to figure out what camera to buy. And then people comment, and they love giving back, right? You see, Facebook groups go crazy. And I do this all the time. I run 2 podcasts, over 300 shows. People always know me as the guy that knows somebody. And then I love giving back. It's just like,
Me too.
I
Me
get
too.
the tingles.
Yes.
Do that tingle thing when I help somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And not everyone's like that. But you mentioned there's the law of reciprocation or reciprocity.
Yes.
And it's just like that tingle that I get and you get. And a lot of people don't ask.
Right.
They're like, they would never have asked. They're like, you got lucky. You happen to find the, no. You asked.
Yeah, all the stories I hear, you were a go-getter, you were looking for answers, you were putting yourself out there,
so
you
got to have it in you.
When people say luck, it's not just,
no. Yeah. It takes a certain type of personality, you know what I mean? But when you reciprocate something, it makes you feel so good. And I love to help. We have people that come to us who want to start up, their company or whatever. And we actually help people with giving them business advice and, just kind of doing that consulting, because I want to see other people do that. I wish there were people when I was trying to come up, even with the DJing I literally hit the street after my gigs at the end of the night, and I would walk into all the bars and clubs and walk up to the DJ booth, and I'd be like, hi, my name is Tumbles. Nice to meet you. And then, I met the guy from Honey, and then I met the guy from whatever. And I literally, within my first year, became friends with all the guys and the DJs all over South Florida, and here specifically Delray. And now I would get so many gigs that I couldn't handle them. So I'd have this group chat, and I would start be like, hey, do you want this?
We do that too. I have a group of musicians, and can someone cover my gig? And it's so great to just have that community of people, and you can all help each other out.
Yeah, and you help each other out. And then some of them would come back to me and they'd be like, oh my God, thank God you helped me get into so and so. And I love that. It makes me feel so good.
Yeah, totally. Because there really is room for everybody.
There really is.
Yeah,
there really is.
Yeah, and everyone has a different vibe, and so it's not
it's not. You don't. If you look at it as a very competitive, on an even plane, that's the wrong way.
That's why I live here and not LA. That was the vibe there, cutthroat and stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. That makes me nervous.
Why just Delray? You keep bringing Delray up. Why not?
It's because I'm local. I have branched out. I do Palm Beach, and I am starting to branch out into Miami. That kind of goes back to how I kind of juggle everything. my first couple of years of being out there, I got so busy locally, and I started dabbling in production. So I started working with like learning how to produce music. So now that I've actually started becoming more proficient with that, this year I was like 2024. I've now started to branch out more into, bigger South Florida, traveling outside of Florida. And I've also actually teamed up with a wonderful local charity recently, the Big Dog Ranch here in South Florida, which is like one of the biggest like
yeah, you
no-kill
told me.
shelters.
Yeah.
And such an amazing group of people. And I've had opportunities to work with these guys. And I just finished doing an event at Trump National for like a huge gala. I'm doing, they got Wine, Women, and Shoes coming up in March, and we do at Mar-a-Lago. So they kind of brought me on as like, it's a wonderful group of like women. And I mean, obviously like guys work there too, but it's like the ladies are the ones that I met first. And I'm like, I love you guys. And I love to give back like when I can, I mean, I went to the last gala and my husband came with me just as backup, and I was DJing, and I'm like, okay, are you going to be okay at the table? He's like, yeah, I got this. So I go and DJ, and I come back and he's like, oh, you don't know what I did. He goes, I just donated. And he's like, but it made me feel really good. He's like, he kept putting up his paddle. He's like, I couldn't have spent this money on anything else that it would have given me the happiness like that this gives me. So the whole giving back,
Where's your time split up now from the first business to then, you're a book author, you do some relationship coaching,
right?
You get back,
right.
Now you're working with,
like what do your days look like? How many hours do you spend on what?
So they always say, sometimes it's like don't work harder, work smarter, but I do happen to be a control freak where I need to have my hands on everything. So you really sometimes have to learn to be able to delegate. One of the best things that I ever did was that I found somebody who I would trust with, which I do trust with my company. And I basically hired somebody and trained them to take on my role with the tech company. So she now manages all my employees. She's my right-hand person. And I touch base with her every single day. So basically, she's an extension of me. So that allowed me to pull back a little bit from the tech company. So now I have more time to like work on my music and prepare.
Because it's a lot. Like
it is.
I know, like
you don't just show up.
As a musician, like now I'm at the point where I just show up at gigs because I've done so many. But now I just bought a new software. I'm getting to live looping now. So I'm like, now I have to learn this all over again, like learn a new skill. And I'm like, oh, I already like have 3 jobs. Like, when am I going to put this time in? But
you
like,
have to find it.
You do. Like, I think it's helps. Like, you clearly love what you do. So,
but doesn't it also make you? It keeps you. I tried to say this saying the other day, and honestly, like I was with my therapist actually, and I tried to be like really like whimsical and say something really smart, and I messed it up. I butchered it. I'm like, what do they say? The devil, like nimble hands are like the devil's like tools. She started laughing her ass off. She goes, what? She goes, idle hands are the devil's workshop. I'm like, yeah, that.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, when you're bored, it's actually like when you have less to do, it's not better sometimes.
No.
So, for me, it's like I try to stay, especially current with my music. Like when I show up to my gigs on the weekends, I have like, some people will just show up and they'll just play music they've had for years.
Yeah.
But I want to stay current. I want to bring an experience where somebody leaves at the end of the night. Like it makes me feel so good at the end of the night when people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you are the best freaking DJ I've ever seen. They're like, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
I love to give happiness. Like when I see people and they're elevated, like that to me is such a high.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what drugs are like because I've never really done any like major like a.
You got to open up an ice cream store next. Though. You never see anyone upset leaving an ice cream store?
I know.
I have a friend that wants to open an ice cream store for that reason. He's like, everyone's smiling.
I totally relate to that, and that's how you're going to stand out among all the other DJs. Like for me, I'm like, I love to do like the request thing because it makes people feel so special when they're like, she like learned my request on the spot or did my thing, when it's like, and then they're like, oh, this, like my friend was saying the other day, like he was playing at the place and he's like, I'm not Danielle, like go away. Like I don't take requests.
Hilarious.
That's funny.
So like, you just have to find that, and that is a personality thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is
you
kind of
have
hard,
to want to be a people pleaser, and like I am a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard when you're in that setting though, and it's like in the night scene, and then the requests are coming from people who don't realize that they're drunk.
No, DJ's different.
Yeah.
Different. I do more.
You probably have coherent people. that are like requesting.
No, I'm more like the happy hour vibe.
Yeah.
Plus, DJs hate. I know like all DJs hate requests. Like
I don't know if they hate requests. To be honest with you, like you're taking up the entire room or the entire like group on a ride. So it has to fit the
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times people get mad and they'll come with their phones and they'll be like, can you play this?
Yeah, I know.
And then 2 minutes later, they're like, can you play this?
Yeah, I know.
You know, I want to dance or this and that. And I'm looking at like across the room and there's like 300 people dancing. And this is like
Yeah,
the
and you're
only
the one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
for
like,
me, it's just easier because I literally can pull up the iPad and be like, okay,
Yeah.
like whatever. But
Yeah.
it makes them feel special.
That's a great quality.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like finding, but that's what's going to set you apart then from like
Right.
them also like, why should I pick you to
Right.
DJ? You know, so
Right.
finding that thing.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I've always been like that too. Is like you said, like, you know, making somebody feel, you know, special or like
Mhm.
taking the time. I did when I was during COVID. One of the things I did too is I actually was running like my own podcast, kind of related to my book. I kind of resurrected the whole relationship coaching,
Yeah.
and I had a huge group of women that would like we would all Zoom,
Yeah.
and it was like it started growing like really big, and there would be like 30 or 40 people. We'd meet like twice a week, and it was kind of like a book club. But I love, you know, because they'd be like, oh my God, how did you meet your husband? Like, you guys are so cute. So I love to, you know, because that's my background. So I love to share things because I want to see other people succeed and be happy.
Yeah, no, I just opened to a random page because I was like, what is in this
Oh no, what are we
book?
reading?
No, it's good. Like this book, it looks dirty on the front, but like it's
I needed a catchy
actually-
title.
Yeah,
It's really
actually
about
just
men.
like
It's marketing.
yeah, mental like listening costs you nothing. You know, it just talks about it costs you nothing to listen to what he has to say.
Right.
I mean, you know better, but that's good advice. It does cost the relationship if your partner feels as though he cannot speak freely or simply
Right.
be himself,
Right.
right? So free expression, listening, these are all
yeah, you know,
like
that comes down to
psychological
right.
things.
And that's the whole thing too. A lot of times is like everything stems from like psychology. Like I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with like behavioral science and like, you know, how people interact in relationships. So that's like honestly, like a lot of times they're like, okay, how are you redefining relationships?
And I like how you use your own examples of
Yeah.
your own relationships.
I'm like, this is how
like,
I
when
fucked
I
it up.
did this, like this happened.
This
Do you
blew up in my
still
face.
spend time Zooms and coaching, or not so much anymore?
Not so much, especially now with the DJing. I haven't really done it in the last little while, but you know, I've always had a passion for like a speaking platform and podcasting. I wish I had time to do it more. It is something that's on my like list of to dos
It's
moving
almost
forward.
like you do it via a podcast,
Yeah.
right? Because then
Yeah.
it could just be aired, and you're doing.
I'm just going to offer it on the Owwll app, and then
Good.
this way I can do it in my car, and then people can call in and we can just talk about their relationship.
That's the best way to do it.
It's coming, people. It's
You know?
coming.
Well, we also have a lot of authors on the app
Yeah.
and people who have gotten like bestseller and even just getting your book, like networking
Yeah.
with them and collaborating on events. Like there's so many opportunities
Yeah.
for everything you do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the book is specifically geared towards women
Mhm.
and teaching them how to navigate relationships
See,
with men.
he.
So I love bringing like women together and like that whole thing about female
And
empowerment.
we have like a woman who was on our podcast who has a whole women's group and
Yeah.
like, a couple women actually like that. So it's just I
Yeah,
think it's gonna be a great platform for
Yeah.
you to explore and meet new people.
yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I mean, somehow I figured it out with my husband. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I got
Yeah.
some things right. I said, so let me share the things that I did. Actually,
Yeah.
honestly, I share the things that I freaking fucked up too.
Yeah,
Excuse
yeah.
my freaking English.
Yeah.
There is like, honestly, like, because I learned from my mistakes and I wanted this relationship to work so bad. So I'm like, okay. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm
How do you
doing
handle the question though when you have people say, "Well, times are different," right? Because now you
Yeah.
got Tinder, you have all the dating apps, right? You have social media, which is way different than what it was. Like
Yeah.
I got married in 2011 or 12. I was going to kill me right now, probably. But I know the answer to that.
My husband
But,
forgets to, don't worry.
but like times were different, right? I
Right.
wasn't even on really. People had Facebook back then, but I wasn't really utilizing it. Like, just how do you handle that question when you're coaching people?
You know what? Listen, times are different. So it comes down to kind of two things. Times are different. I think the goal is to find a partner or, you know, to connect with somebody who actually has very similar values and, you know, like principles, like the things that are important to them. And then also, like for me, when I met my husband, we had, there has to be a willingness. Like I saw in the beginning of the book, I say, listen, this book's not going to work if you're trying. Like I have like this saying that you can't shine shit. So
Mhm.
you can't like, you know, if you're baking banana bread, you need bananas. Like you
Yeah.
can't bake banana bread without bananas. So
Yeah.
if you find a guy and he has potential, then this book will work. But you can't take somebody that doesn't have a desire to, you know, put forth that effort and bring good value to the relationship, then this isn't going to work. No book's going to work.
Mhm.
And I feel like a lot of times that is the main problem. Like we talk about these red flags and we talk about like people ignore those because they become so hyper focused more so on being in a relationship and wanting companionship that they ignore the fact that this person is not compatible like with them whatsoever. Or that like women try to love a man like in a female way. We're like, well, I'm going to love him the way I know how. Well, that's fine, but that he doesn't.
Or I'm going to change that person. I'm going to go into this knowing I'm going to change them. I'm always like, why don't you just not be with that person and then find someone who's already on your wavelength? Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we're like, oh, he's like this and he's like that. I'm like, okay, but you want to date a man. Like if you want to date a man, this is the way he needs to be loved. Because the way that men prioritize love and the way that women prioritize love are completely different. Like we might have like the same core things, but we just prioritize them differently. And a lot of times women are like, oh, men and sex. But what we don't realize is that is how a man, that's his emotional expression. That is like his most vulnerable, intimate offering. It's not just a physical thing. It's not like plug and play. But a lot of times because women have security and safety as their priority before they unleash their sexuality. So now is like, how do those two come together? Like who goes first? So a lot of times women don't really understand that there are some sacrifices and like that whole thing that where you tapped in and said, listening costs you nothing. A lot of times if a partner says something to you that makes you uncomfortable, especially as women, we immediately shut down. And, it costs nothing to listen. Like my husband, I tell him, you can tell me anything. Like if he told me, like, I'm like, when we talk about like stuff in the bedroom, sex, tell me, what are you into? And I'm like, okay, I'm like gritting my teeth. I'm like, I'm ready to hear something that I'm probably not going to want to hear, but I'm going to try to have my face like not squinch. And because here's the thing, if he tells me 10 things that he's into, maybe I'm okay with 3 of them, maybe 5 or 6. I don't have to be okay with all of them. But if I can bring 5 or 6 of them to real life in his world, he's happy as a pig in poop. Because he's like, oh my God, this is stuff that I didn't have. So instead of like a lot of times women focus on the 4 things they can't do because that triggers their insecurity. And they're like, is that what you want? Is that what you want? Is that what you like? I'm not focused on that. I'm focusing what I can do.
Well, part of it is also just the communication in general. People don't even have these conversations that you're talking about. Like
they're hard.
They don't even speak. They're
hard. I want to have hard conversations.
So
I don't want it to be like la la la.
I
love my relationship.
Blinders. That's
like tell me what it's going to hurt because I can work with that. Because I'd much rather give me the opportunity to decide whether I want to be a part of something. I don't want something to happen to me. A lot of times I want to be a part of like So
I love that.
Yeah.
Good advice. All right, guys. Well, where can they buy this book?
While we're talking about communication, it's a good time to call people on Owwll, of course, because people are lacking communication skills. When you look at Gen Z, the millennial generation, whatever generation you're in, it's like people are getting addicted to cell phones. And cell phones were invented to speak with people and communicate. And it comes right back to relationships. So people just call people in those early days of relationships, things could be figured out with these red flags that you're speaking about, but everyone's basing on the look of a picture, or
there's so much that could be demystified from a call.
How many likes, but
I always do.
Owwll, she's calling someone right now.
I'm always like, want to get on a video call, before I say like hi, and then I'm like, let's video chat.
I say do a call within the first 2 days of meeting somebody right away.
So the way this works, our audience isn't seeing. She's going to be calling someone. All these experts are live right now. Let's call Daniel Hall is live.
Okay.
Give him a ring. So Daniel is actually a technology expert. And how cool is this? He has 368 reviews, 403 calls, 45-year tech veteran. Wow. Big guy on LinkedIn, actually, LinkedIn guru. And he has 6 adopted children. Right. So you call this guy about your tech company, and then it could lead about just general conversations about family and children. She's giving her, he's $10 for 10 minutes. And all these people are live right now.
That's kind of cool, though, because think about it. Like, it actually puts you in front of people that you normally otherwise would not have access to.
Exactly.
All right. We have Daniel.
Yes.
You're actually live on the Owwll podcast right now.
What's up, Daniel? Jason Hill, long time no speak. How are you?
I'm doing remarkable, Jason. Thank you guys for calling me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Can you do us a favor in 30 seconds or less? Tell Marie a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then she's going to ask you a question.
Marie, I've been in tech for 45 years. I started running software when I was 8 years old, went through foster care, got adopted, grew up in a very hellish foster home. And now my wife and I are amazing parents of 6 adopted children. Talk about flipping the script totally. But my wife just has this amazing way of reaching into your soul and capitalizing on the best parts of you.
Oh.
And willing to talk about anything you want to talk about, from tech to adoption to what it's like to be in the system, anything.
Wow.
Fire away.
Fire.
There's that compatibility factor.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh my God, I want to be with her. She sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We're complete opposites.
And that's so funny that you say that, because my husband and I are complete opposites too.
Really?
And we work really well together. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you actually started, you said writing code when you were 8 years old?
Yeah. Writing code when I was 8 years old.
Wow. So let me ask you this, because obviously you seem like very just, well, like, I mean, just magnificent. So what is one thing that you would tell somebody who, you know, looked at someone like you in your life and said, wow, I want to do that. I want to be that. What is one thing that you would say was probably your strongest quality? Because you sound like you came, like you persevered, and sometimes people can either be victims or victors, you know? So you sound like you actually took that and that became like your fuel. What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that if they really wanted to start up or follow in those footsteps, was like your strongest quality, your strongest drive, or the thing that worked in your favor?
Well, I have my son Parker that just walked in the room. Parker is level 2 autistic. He suffers from a lot of various autoimmune diseases. He was severely drug and alcohol exposed in utero. And this little guy, he's not little anymore. He's 11 years old, but he is remarkable. He has taught me so much. If you want to become a leader in life, become a follower first.
Yeah.
Because if you can learn to follow, I follow, and this guy is one of my biggest teachers. You want to say hi real quick, buddy? Okay, hold on. Here's Parker.
Hi.
Hi, Parker. How are you?
So cute. Good.
Oh, your dad's a great guy. He speaks highly of you. I feel like we know you already.
What do you say? Say thank you.
Thank you.
And he's gone. You get about 30 seconds with him, and thank you, buddy. It's going to cost you. Yeah, give a kiss and hug.
Are you watching?
I am. Kiss and hug.
So,
Love you, buddy. That's our currency, and that's another takeaway right there. Our currency for our kids when they want something, it's usually kisses and hugs. You know, that's the payment. So if they want to borrow something, it's going to cost them. Yeah, that was a great question, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
oh, well, listen, you know what? I'm actually glad that we like had a time to like pop you in here, because like honestly, like in the short time that we just talked in the past couple of minutes, like you've inspired me. I love that.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
I'm
Thank
definitely adding you on the Owwll app. I'm just like starting to spread my wings.
Yeah,
I'm starting to spread my Owwll wings.
She's about to. She's not on there yet, but she's about to join. And she's done a ton in the tech industry as well. So I feel like you guys are definitely going to chat again at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Same here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your life to chat with me. That is awesome.
Oh,
Thank you for picking
Thank
up.
you.
We love Daniel Hall. Woo woo. Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Hoot, hoot.
Hoot, 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 hoot.
Hoot, hoot, hoot.
How cool is that, right? So you didn't
Yeah.
know Daniel. $10 later, you know Daniel.
Yeah.
Pretty unique, right?
yeah.
Imagine you had this when you started your business that first year, where you needed to just
Oh,
know the
man.
experts quickly. So all these people are live right now. So we could click like Urea McGarry, right?
Mhm.
Runs a whole podcast network. She won an Emmy in her past, and then you could see her whole background. And she charges $5 for 10 minutes because lots of times individuals on this platform realize it's not about the $5 for 10 minutes. That's just kind of like the friction point, you know,
Right.
that people aren't wasting their time. And then relationships are being built once the conversations are started.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing too is like we have mentorship Mondays where like someone who is maybe just starting out and doesn't have money to spend,
Yeah.
like a lot of CEOs and higher up people who are experienced will lower their price to $1 because they want to give back.
Wow.
So it's like every Monday 9 to 12, and people know about that. This is like a time they can get on. It's usually really busy on the app and
Yeah.
do these
That's kinda cool.
discounted calls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mentorship Mondays. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Are you able to I guess are they like categories so you can actually
yeah.
search? Yeah.
Yeah, right
That's
on the
cool.
right on the app right here. There's a little search button,
Yeah.
and you choose expertise.
Right.
So everything under the sun is there.
Right.
And then it kind of works like Google at the top. You could just search anything because sometimes we won't have a topic, but it will search your bio.
Right.
So if you're going through something personal, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people go through health issues. I went through an issue in 2023 with cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, everything went well. But you know how nice it would be to speak to the male who went through the same situation that I went through,
Right.
right? It was a hard conversation to have. It was testicular cancer, right? So of
Yeah.
course, I'm like, I want to speak to another guy. I
Yeah.
want to speak to another doctor, another person who knew someone who went through it. And no, I want to speak to the guy who had testicular cancer. And you could just type in cancer in here,
Yeah.
whether it's a female breast cancer, and then see breast cancer survivor and be like, hey, I want to chat with you. Unfortunately, I've been diagnosed, and something unique about speaking to a stranger about something that's very personal at times.
Right.
I think, right?
It gives you more comfort for a
It
little bit
does.
more intimacy because it kind of
Yeah. You don't
don't feel
know
as
them, so you're like, who
guarded.
cares? Yeah. Who
Let
cares?
me tell you about what happened to me when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's literally anything. You got Jonathan Palmer here, who's a LinkedIn guru. That's all he does, help people grow their LinkedIn
Oh,
following.
cool.
Over to Stackback, who you guys would connect very well into media. He's got on TV frequently. He's got 2.5 million followers on social media. But in general, it's everything under the sun, right? We have so many different varieties of experts, to movie producers, to people.
A doctor, like everything. Yeah. Like
Great. I'm going to be on that thing the freaking whole night.
Yeah.
Next time I come back, and guess what? I got 3 more careers.
Well, that actually leads us into our next little kind of
finale, the
ending of the
finale.
show is the bet. The bet.
What's the bet?
Ooh.
That's a good
What is going
question.
to be the bet today?
Why are you looking at me?
I
don't
walked
know.
out
Tell her what the rules are
hell
with
is
the bet.
bet?
So typically what we do is we give you something, we give you a challenge, which I feel like you're someone that likes to take on challenges. So we'll give you a challenge. Like sometimes we'll say, in 1 week, you have to make 15 calls on Owwll, right?
Right.
So if you actually complete that, then you get something from us. So we would offer you maybe to do you could have our studio for your own episode to use for whatever you want. We could give you merch. We partner with Celsius. We could give you a bunch of those, something that you would want from us, or you could think of something, or your own DJ party in here. I don't know. And then if you lose, if you don't make those calls, then we get something from you.
Oh, so you can't do this to me. I am such a competitive person. You have no idea.
Good.
I will literally leave here and I will have those calls done by the time I get home. You have no. Me and my husband.
I hope
yeah.
because we've had people say that before, and then I'm like 0 calls. Literally, no one has completed.
No, you have no idea.
So I have a feeling you might actually
you have no
be
idea.
the one.
Most people have lost.
Yeah, I think
bets have been very simple. We're make 10 calls in 7 days. And then 7 days later, we're they're at 0. We're
wow, we keep winning.
But this lends itself back to exactly what you just said. That type of personality, that's not a quality of
I know.
It doesn't put you on that trajectory.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay, so wait. So what's
what is the bet? So what should we say? 15 calls?
Okay, well, let's do it high because
I shouldn't have hyped myself up then. Hold on a second. Well, I don't know if I can do this.
I'm busy.
But the calls are $1, $10. So it's a joke.
I don't have my glasses.
Right?
I can't see my phone. Okay, what are we saying?
So it's 15. She established it. 15 calls. Either made or received. I don't even care. Right.
Okay.
So you could make yourself available to take calls as well. You could do it during Mentorship Mondays, or any day of the week. But Mentorship Mondays are our biggest day of the week because a lot of people enter the app excited to call someone for a dollar.
People can call me too.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm setting up my profile. People, you need to help me get these 15 calls. I'll be on Monday. I don't care. I will make $1. I will make $0. 15 calls.
Well, that's impossible.
Okay,
you
so
can't make $0.
Okay, no, just kidding.
$1. $1 is the lowest. Yeah.
$1. Make you holla on Monday. So 15 calls.
So
okay, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to go with.
Okay.
I want our theme song for the Owwll podcast. I want you to create it. It needs to be under a minute long because we're going to actually use it on our live. We just started using StreamYard a lot more and going live.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is live on my LinkedIn account. Instagram just announced that you could go live through a podcast through them as well. As well as our Facebook account. So what I would like is that we get this cool video, but we need a song to start out with.
Well, you're singing.
So
yeah, well, we can collab. This is going to be our first collab.
So this will be the first collab.
You can produce.
DJ and collab because we want it. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, so that's what we win if you don't get those 15 calls. Is that fair?
Okay.
And then what would you like? Obviously, you hit that, right? You could, it could be something within Owwll. We do a lot of events. like for example, I'm heading to Podfest the end of this month. You like podcasting?
Yeah.
We will have the Owwll booth set up there. We do
Yeah.
this interactive booth, and we let people, like our guest Lawrence Gartel is a famous artist.
Yeah.
He came to our event Tech Palooza in Fort Lauderdale,
Uh-huh.
and I said, go have some fun, interview the audience. The
Yeah.
audience would come in,
Oh, I'll do that.
and then they loved it. So
Wait,
we have
where's this place?
so the next big event we have is Podfest.
Where's
so
that?
I can offer you a ticket to Podfest for free.
It's in Orlando.
Oh, that's not far.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
if you
Honestly,
want.
like,
It's really good networking.
I love podcasting. So even if it was like access to this space,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because if it becomes an extension from like my Owwll profile and then just like podcasting, because I do intend on resurrecting like my podcast. So even if it's access to this or coming out
Yeah.
and I'll interview people.
It's a pretty cool setup. So we set this up with a red carpet.
You give me a mic and you're freaking mic on wheels.
I know you're.
So
good.
you're perfect for it because I'm like this.
I'm like highly entertaining. I'm like,
I know.
I'm
Yeah,
not
you know
done.
your own podcast. Yeah.
I'm not done.
You resurrect this
So
into
what
a
is-
podcast.
Okay.
So the bet is
Well, I
on.
think she wants the
14.
space, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
listen,
yes,
I'll
it is.
easily come out to that anyways. Like,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
I honestly love to collab with people and I
Yeah.
love to bring like my energy and like,
Yeah.
So that if I can make it happen, I'll totally come out to that. But yeah, the space.
But I think just
Space it is.
doing
15
it.
calls.
Yeah.
15, and you get the space for 2 hours.
Within 7 days.
7 days.
Yeah, within 7 days.
So today is Wednesday. By next
So by
Wednesday-
next
How do people
Wednesday.
fail this?
I don't know.
Wah, wah.
I know, and people are like, "Oh, I'm in
This
sales.
is how
I'm
relationships
amazing."
fail.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
people
yeah.
is how relationships fail. Because if you can't make 15 calls in 7 days,
But calls taken too. So it's like loud.
That's easy. Sometimes it's just your phone rings. You're like, "Cool, perfect." Yeah, it's not hard.
call
I mean,
me maybe.
There's a lot. I mean, me being in the financial service space, I've seen it.
Mhm.
I was partner with this brand that would give people free leads.
Yeah.
Leads in the financial service space. That's like, oh my, that's gold,
Mhm.
right? And they would give people leads. These people would pay for some of the leads, like $10, and they would say they would see it in the CRM.
Yeah.
Just not called. They never could get up. They never had that confidence to make that first call. They always felt like, I need to learn more
Yeah.
before I make the
No.
call. So they never do. So with Owwll, it's the same issue. There's a lot of people see these people live, but like, I don't know, what would I call Daniel? What would I talk to him about? So they get in their own mind,
Yeah.
and they never make the call.
Right.
But it's everything that's the same situation in your book.
Fear
Right.
and self-doubt are the two biggest like kryptonite. Like,
Mhm.
and the funny thing is they're made up. They're in our heads.
Yeah.
So honestly, like I would call somebody and people love to talk about themselves. That is like the one thing when you ask people questions. So I'm going to call these people and be like, hey, you look interesting as
Yeah.
let me know more about you.
Interesting as
Yeah. Interesting as my necklace.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
like,
I love it.
got to keep it PG.
yeah. Great. Okay. Well, I think we have
Had
ourselves
fun.
a deal. Are we gonna shake on it?
We're shaking on it. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Wait, we got to do the
There we go.
AMSR.
Yeah.
Okay. Cross shake.
Yeah.
Everyone saw it
You saw
on
that.
film.
All right. And she
I want you people to know-
Easy,
Oh,
so-
Marie, she will be an expert in the next 30 minutes. Of course, we're going to make her
yeah, we're gonna get her on the platform.
fly, and then of course she'll be an expert, and then she'll go live right when she leaves.
Whenever.
Y'all
Yeah,
call
on the
me.
car ride home, you can call her.
Yeehaw. I just got my car back too, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Finally not riding my bike because that would have been noisy.
Yeah. Hello. Oh my God. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Yay. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, everyone, you heard it. Give her a call on the Owwll Lab. We'll see everybody next Wednesday around 5 p.m. See you.
Post-production for the Owwll podcast is done, with care, by Brian at Ocean Tree Creative. Reach out to Brian via the link in the show notes.